So hello and welcome to Bold Business Podcast. This is Ross Jones, and today I'm delighted to be joined by brand design expert Kay Storey, founder of Brandstorm Creatives. Hi, Kay.
Hi, Rose. Thanks for having me on today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. So I'm always fascinated by the energy that you give out, Kay. And I know this is really important for you in your brand and design work. So tell us a bit about what energy means for you in your business and your life.
Energy is everything. It's everything we touch. Everything's made up of some form of energy. And that's no different to when we talk about our brands. So when I talk about brand energy, it's really infusing the core essence of your brand and being able to translate that outwardly so people get a really clear, concise idea and a feeling, which is the really important part, and a feeling of your brand and what it brings.
Yes, fascinating. And there is this sort of invisible thing, isn't there, that attracts us to different people? And is that the energy, the feeling of somebody? What's that about?
Yeah, 100%. So when we pick up on people's energy, and this is where I liken it to brand. So what we do is when we create brand for people, for your brand, what you do is you kind of humanize that. And I can liken this to, imagine going on a first date. Right. So, think of the friendships that we have. Think of who we call our tribe. There's usually a shared energy, or there's something about them that it's a magnetic attraction. And that's what we try to capture inside your branding.
It really fascinates me, and I don't know how you do it, but I know there's very clever people out there with branding. So does that mean that when, I don't know, like say some big names like Coca-Cola or McDonald's or something, they have their branding and that's what they're giving out is energy that attracts a certain kind of person to it?
Yeah, it's a feeling. So it's your brand is how you make someone feel.
Right.
It's what someone thinks about you, your brand, when you are not in the room. That is your brand. And most of that comes from an emotional connection to something.
Yeah.
So when you're building a brand, what I call the nucleus of your brand, it's like your brand anatomy. In the center of that nucleus is everything that you are and your whys. So it's your purpose, it's your passion, it's your values, it's all those things that make up the core of your brand very foundations. They're the things that people get attracted to. So, for example, you maybe have really strong values and ethics. So you will attract people who share those, and that goes deeper than thinking they're nice and I want to work with them, or I like their products and services. It goes beyond that. It's something that is an energy that you can't ignore. So when you think about your circle of friends, for example, there'll be something about like a deep rooted value of that person, and you have very similar values and ethics. And so that's the best way I can describe it. It's that translation. So what are we magnetized to? So in our brains, we've got the limbic brain, which is powering like 95% of our emotional subconscious brain. And in our brains, we're completely bombarded these days online. So all the information that we take on, it's mostly absorbed visually. And that does also include what people have to say about things, obviously. But what do you see? What do you feel? What do you hear? And what our brain does, our brain starts ticking boxes in the background. And that's where we've come very much attached to something or somebody because it's resonated with us and it's resonated with our values and ideals. And so you mentioned like some of the big brands, in their slogans often try and capture encapsulate like a feeling, don't they? Like how you're going to make them feel. It's like when it's the holidays. When you see the red truck and a jingle, we all know what it is. We don't even have to see the product. We just see a van in the distance and a glimpse of red, and we all know what it is. So it's so ingrained. Their company brand is so ingrained that we know what that is, and they want to invoke excitement or different brands, different emotions. But it's like, for example, a popular car brand. I don't know if I can mention this. So say a Volvo, they're known for being safe and reliable. You ask somebody for the first thing, well, is that because you've driven one, or is that because what you now believe that brand is? Because they are so consistent with their messaging and how they want to make someone feel. These things just become second nature to us and ingrained in our
Yeah.
psyche.
And is it possible to, well, it must be, but I was going to say it was a rhetorical question, really, because it sounds a bit manipulative as well, in that we are manipulating people to be drawn into our brand. Or is it possible to manipulate, to pretend to be something that you're not?
I think you'd soon get found out if you're not, because you
Yeah.
can't deliver on them. You don't deliver on your promises. So that's one of the key things, isn't it? So branding is very persuasive.
Yeah.
It's a way of being persuasive towards the buyer to come on board as part of your tribe, we'll call it.
Yeah.
However, if you are not delivering on your promises, if you are not delivering on your standards, if you like, you soon lost them people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people are not hoodwinked. So I think that I would say it's more persuasive. But of course, anybody is persuasive. Somebody on a market stall, it will be persuasive, shouting to get you to come over to look at what you've got. Like, that's the base of selling, isn't it? Like,
Well,
that's
yeah, but it's in every aspect of life, isn't it? We persuade our kids to eat the vegetables,
100%.
so it's everywhere, isn't it? We're selling all the time. And yeah, that's interesting because there is this fear of selling as well. I find a lot, where people are repelled by the very word and refuse to say that they are salespeople. But we sell, if you like, if we want to use that word, in every aspect of our life, don't we?
We do, but think about it this way. If we are not selling our products and services, that's a hobby. If you are a business owner, you are a salesperson, whether you find it icky or not. You've
Yeah.
just got to find a way that feels natural and easy and comfortable for you to do that. But if you are not selling, that is not a business. The
Yeah.
very nature of a business is to sell something, whether that's apples, or whether that's a flashy new car, we're selling.
Yeah,
And
precisely.
if you've got an amazing product and service, a gift that you can put out into the world that helps other people, then you've a duty to sell.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. I had a breakthrough moment myself in business once when I bought a database and I just did cold calling all the time, which was a bit draining. I mean, it did work. I got some amazing clients, actually, to tell you the truth, but it was a bit draining because you had to go through so many no's to get to a yes. Yeah. But I heard this. No, I was reading a book actually, and it was saying it was a book by Grant Cardone, the sales guru they call him, but he was saying, if you really care and believe in your product or service and you know the good that it can do, you shouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that there's people who haven't heard about you. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I need to get out there more. Can't sleep at night knowing people are suffering because of me. So, but that was quite a breakthrough moment, actually. Just changing the words, I guess, isn't it? So
That's just basically what I said, isn't it?
yeah,
In the fact that, if you can change people's lives, if by what I do, like I light up when I see people's businesses make more impact, that impact affects them, their families, their staff, the people who buy the products and services. Therefore, depending what that is, the ripple effect just goes on and on. So, you know, sharing your gift is sometimes immeasurable, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
so, and if you don't go out and sell yourself, then you're not going to be helping many people. And you kind of, like I say, you have a bit of a duty to do that, I think,
yeah,
if you've got something so special
yeah.
or
We're all duty bound. Yeah, absolutely. And so tell me, Kay, in terms of your business, so I know you've been doing this 25 years now, so
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
been around a bit and know your stuff. What would you say has been the biggest time of adversity for you? What huge challenge have you had to overcome in your business that may be a helpful story for other people, actually?
In 25 years, there's been a few. So there's been, I've already been through other recessions, and, having a baby and all the big life-changing events. But I think one of the biggest is when I got sepsis. So, and it was pretty serious. And I was in intensive care, whatever you call it, special care in the hospital. Was it 10 days? So literally, I went from being at one of my busiest times, flat out, to literally being wired up to machines and not knowing for 24 hours if I was coming home or not. That
Wow.
was
So what
frightening.
caused that?
It was a blocked bile duct in my gallbladder, which had moved and it had infected my gallbladder, which had then given me some kind of colitis or something, which had also then gone into my pancreas and started giving pancreatitis.
Ooh,
So it just escalated very quickly out of nowhere.
wow.
Yeah. So that was a tricksy time because it's not only the 10 days you're in hospital, it's the massive recovery from that. And I think one thing that I would tell anybody to do in business, and a lot of business owners don't necessarily think of this, is make sure you protect yourself. So I have a policy. So this is not like critical illness where it's got to be end of life or something. But I have a policy which means for any reason, if I can't work, it kicks in immediately and pays everything.
Yeah,
So that's one thing I would say. And automating as much of your business as you can so someone can very easily step in and take over stuff so you can take a step back. So that is the biggest learning, which I would say since that happened. Yes, I had stuff in place, but I have a lot more in place now, knowing how important that was, so that someone can pick up client work, someone can, maintain. So even though I was taken out of the equation for a short while, my business didn't stop. And that's one of the biggest things I would tell someone to do.
yeah,
Think what happens if you, for any reason, are taken out of the business, even for a short time, what happens to that business?
yeah,
Because it
yeah,
needs, for longevity, that
yeah.
you need to have these things in place.
Well, that's is an interesting thing, really, because most of the people who come to me for help all say that they actually want to be out of their business, but they find it so difficult. So it's really, they've been in the business 20, 30 years and they're just like getting a bit fed up now with always being on the tools, so to speak. So we're going through trying to help them create this thing that can work without them having to be there. But sometimes it's so hard for them to let go. And I guess what you experienced there was you had no option. You had to let go because there was nothing else that could be done. But that's an interesting conundrum, I guess.
I
But
think there's
yeah,
another side to that as well, because what are you not letting go of? And it's a really interesting process to go through. And I go through something which I call the ABCs. So it's you work out what you really, in your business, what is solely reliant on you, what is the only you can do, what is fundamental to your business. Then we've got B lists that are things that you can do. That's fine, but they could also be passed on. And then there's the list of things that you don't really enjoy nor they're out of your remit. But here's the secret, right? To growing your business, you've got to delegate and you've got to decide, because unless it's the first list, anything else on that list is probably not keeping you in your zone of genius and in flow.
yeah,
So what's it? You've got to let go to grow, the saying.
yeah,
And,
completely.
and it is really difficult, but all you're doing is just keep piling your plate on higher to do everything.
Yeah,
And in a business, it's difficult when you're a small business, but you can start delegating, like even if it's a cleaner or bookkeeper. So you don't have to go all out, like just start one step at a time and start moving those tasks away that you do not have to do.
Yeah.
Um, it's about growing up in your business a bit, isn't it? I
Yeah,
think,
exactly. Growing up, I like that. And just quickly, Kay, because I know that you've got something whizzy that that you've developed as a system. So just quickly take us through the system that you've developed, especially for business owners and their teams.
yeah. So this is where it's called the brand flight map. And in the flight map, all businesses growing and even the more established ones, they find out that they've got gaps in their business. So the system that I've got, I take people through 5 pillars of their business. Within that 5 pillars, there's 60 touch points that is everything you need really whilst growing your business and your brand. And what I do is I spotlight people. So I would get the business owner sat in front of me, and the only secret to this is being completely vulnerable and honest with yourself. So they're completely private. Nobody ever sees it apart from the actual business owner. And when we go through it, you find actually where them gaps are, because them gaps sometimes hinder growth. They're holding you back because, for an example, some people might be throwing everything into marketing because they think marketing's going to be how you create your revenue and get to your sales. But actually, there are steps before that. If you've missed, you're making the job of marketing really difficult for yourself and unnecessarily. So, what I do is I've created this system, and then it produces a 20-page output separating what is urgent and essential within your business. So you know where you're leaking time, energy, or money in your business.
Fabulous. That sounds great. And how do people find out more about you and what you do? Where do they need to go? Is there a website, or do they just email you? Where do they go?
Well, I'm all over the place, Ross, as you would be after all this time. But I have a website which is brandstormcreatives.com. You can find me on LinkedIn under Kay Storey. I'm on Instagram under at Brandstorm Creatives, and same goes for Facebook. So I'm
Fabulous.
easily found if anyone wants to find me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And just before we go, I just really need to know, how did you come up with the name Brandstorm Creators?
So this is my rebrand I did on myself. And you find that you've outgrown your image. So me personally, my business and brand had outgrown where we were. And one of the things that clients have often told me, the one thing they love about working with me is the energy that I bring. So I wanted something that really encapsulated that. And the idea of we're all in this like white noise storm, and we need to shine a light on people because they just get lost in what I call the noise trap. And the Brandstorm came from that. It was the power and energy, what we put into building brands.
Yeah.
And creatives, it comes from the collective that we are. So we've got a lot of people that I work with and collaborate with, so that we offer big agency solutions without having to go to a massive agency.
Yeah.
So it's been able to pull the right people in for the right job. So
Yeah.
after 25 years, you can imagine I've a very impressive little black book when it comes to
Yeah.
brand.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that story. And actually you get the idea of a lot of energy from the brand storm, creating a storm, kicking up a storm. I can see it. Thank you so much. It's been brilliant speaking with you today, Kay. Thank you so much again.
Thanks for having me.